Welcome to a new webinar with Seibert Media. I have a guest. It's Eugene from ALM Works. Hi, Eugene.
Hey, hi, Martin. Hi, everyone.
We had a webinar, I think it was also about structure, and we weren't sure if it is 3 or 5 years ago, but it's a long time ago. It's also on our YouTube channel. It could be that it's on our German channel. It's a long time ago. But what I know from that is you've been a very long employee at ALM Works, and you really know ALM technology inside out. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I actually joined the company at the time when Structure was it was the start of the development process. So I participated in the launch and had a chance to see how it's evolved over time from pretty much the start.
And right now, it's one of the best-selling apps on the Atlassian marketplace overall, right?
Yeah, that's true. It's actually been among top 5 selling apps for Jira pretty much from the start. Just I think we found a really good use case, a really nice niche, and partly because of that, it's been so successful. But it really has grown a lot into something else, and I can tell a few words how it sort of.
Yeah, before we start sharing screens and showing off the software and diving right in, can you explain in a couple of sentences what does ALM Works do? Which apps do you have? Which purpose do they solve? And what do you want to focus today on?
Yeah, sure. I'll be happy to. So we actually started with a desktop app. Those were the times. It was a Jira client app, desktop client for Jira, and it had its success. Actually, in Germany, it was pretty successful, and we even still have some customers using it. But Structure, like you've said, is currently our core product. And it's actually become some kind of a platform for us because we are building more apps on top of it.
So Structure Pages.
Right, Structure Pages, and I'll show that. Then there is Structure.Gantt, which we have released last year to bring in some planning capabilities to Structure. We have a small extension for testing, and we have some ideas for the future as well. And currently, we are actively working on the cloud version of Structure as well. So it remains our flagship product. It does evolve, and it does change over time. Focus sometimes shifts a little bit. And today we'll be talking about some of the most common use cases you can solve with Structure and the extensions for it that we have.
So today we're going to be talking about stuff that will work with Atlassian Jira Server, right?
Right, that's correct. And Data Center as well. We are fully certified and
okay. Then without further ado, let's start the screen sharing part. I would want to share my screen first. Let me pick the right window. Yeah, that's where I wanted to go. There is a website that will host the YouTube recording and information about Eugene and how you can reach him, how you can reach us. And I was searching for the link below here. So it's Seibert/webinar ALM structure, and you can type that in and get in contact with us. Obviously, you'll be able to find the video on YouTube also. And if you're hearing that, you did find the video in some way already. You can choose to put a comment below. This is if you're seeing the recording. If you, like a couple of people, watch this live, you can also put your comments and questions in the chat window, which is, let me see, I think on this side. So on the screen, it's on the right-hand side. And I will peek there every now and then and see whether there's a question. Feel free to ask them there or give us a comment. We will make sure that we answer them whenever you have a question. This is not a sales exercise. So obviously, Eugene would be delighted if you would buy the Structure app later. But this is meant to give you an insight of what capabilities, what features it has. I'm going to try to ask him silly and mean questions. We're going to be talking about pricing. We're going to be talking about competition. We're going to be talking about weaknesses. And I'll expect him to answer as honest and direct as possible. We'll see how well that goes. But before we come to the meaner parts, how about you just share your screen, Eugene, and give us the normal pitch, just to give you some. I know this is like a really versatile app, and we're using it in our safe solution Agile Hive. And I've seen customers try to do scaled, safe-like solutions without Agile Hive. And I'm absolutely eager to see what your experiences with customers are there. And we could use a long time to dive in. I would want to try to keep this video below an hour, which is also because of a time constraint that I have, and also maybe some viewer constraints to make people not wait that long. But how about you start just your show as you would in a demo session, and I interrupt you whenever I feel it's good, or there may be questions people have.
Absolutely. Sounds great. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah, I muted myself already. So yeah, we can see your screen.
Okay, perfect. So just a brief intro about how it all started, because it explains a little bit the way the product works as well. So it actually all started with a very simple and clear request in Atlassian Jira 8 years ago, which said that people want the ability to have subtasks of subtasks. And at that time, it was not completely clear why they need it and how they're going to use it. There were some people mentioning that it's important for project management, larger projects, and things like that. And that's kind of clear. If you want to break down a big piece of work into smaller parts, you'll definitely need some kind of bigger hierarchy, more levels. But at that time, it was not entirely clear. As time went by, we got a much better understanding of what people are actually looking for, what kind of problems they solve, and what are some of the most common use cases for our tool, and in general, what kind of challenges people see in Jira. And
I still see Atlassians being screamed at by customers who say, why can't Jira have subtasks? And they keep telling people, how about you look at Structure? And they're, no, I want subtasks.
Well, yeah, luckily for us, they're not there yet. Although, well, Atlassian did provide a solution to some of the use cases in the is their portfolio product, and in many situations we are sort of competing, but we can talk about it later. I'm sure Martin will ask me about that.
Yeah, I have that on my list. Jira
right.
portfolio and big picture and all of these
cool.
Guys. But still, it's different, right?
Right. Yeah. We approach it from a different perspective. So our core feature, you can call it, is an ability to build hierarchies in Jira. Hierarchies which can consist of issues. Plus, we introduce a number of our own items folders. If you have Structure.Pages, you can use Confluence pages in the hierarchy. And again, it's a very simple concept of the hierarchy, but it becomes really, really powerful when it comes to managing larger projects, managing multiple teams, and tracking progress across multiple teams. Whenever you need to work with thousands of issues, Jira has some limitations. It's great for individual teams. You can use Agile boards for managing your Agile teams, and it works great. You get all the reporting, you can see what's going on, you can plan really well, you can plan your sprints, things like that. But imagine you have 10 teams. It's becoming really hard. You can, of course, build a really large Agile board and try to create a number of filters there and look at it from different angles. But it's, again, once your number of simultaneously worked on issues grows over 1,000, it's not really a very convenient solution. But the concept of hierarchy allows you to organize all that work into some more like compact batches, and so that you can better understand how it works. I'll just show you a couple of most common use cases, and explain a little bit how people would configure their Jira and how then they would use Structure to work with this kind of configuration. So what you are looking at right now on the screen, it's the Structure hierarchy. Once you install the plugin, you get an extra menu item here in Jira menu through which you can access your structures or create new ones. So let's start real quick by creating a new structure. Let's create a new empty structure. So it's like a workplace where you'll be working. As you can see, it's empty now, and we can populate our structure in several different ways. We can just manually pull in a number of issues that already exist in our Jira. So we can run a jQuery search, or we just see some recently accessed issues and just pull them inside the structure. Like, you can think of a structure as a container. And you can organize these issues into a hierarchy any way you want. And if you do it manually, it's completely arbitrary. Currently, it's not reflecting any relations that exist between these issues. You just do it the way you want to do it. And it's good for smaller structures. It's fine. It can be convenient for maybe doing your smaller task lists or things like that, or like building your own kind of context.
Let me give people some context about that. It's this is really useful if you have different people who all work on like similar or the same issues. Like, let's imagine you have team leads for each team, and then you have a business unit leader who will lead those teams, and then you have someone else who's more of a specialist for a certain solution. And they can all have the same issues in different structures that help them understand your business, your progress, your tasks better. And they can work simultaneously in their structures without interfering with one another. At the same time, the individual issue, if the developer, for example, finishes that one task, it'll update in all of the structures automatically, so that it's not like this old style Gantt chart in this Microsoft project where as soon as you finish your Gantt chart, it's already gone or old, but it updates automatically and still leaves everyone the room to structure their work in a way that they'll understand and can go back to later. Sorry for this interruption. But it's something that we see with customers a lot, that they love that multiple people can have their own view of folders and hierarchies.
Right. Like Martin said, it's a representation of your Jira data. So there is no layer between structure and your issues. You're actually looking at the real Jira issues here. And if you edit them, you'll be editing Jira issues, not something abstract that exists in the tool. And it's true that you can have the same issues in multiple structures, depending on what kind of view you want. And in fact, as we'll see a bit later, you can create different visualizations of the same set of issues, but we may want to look at them from different angles. So the real power of Structure lies in our automation feature, which allows you to build structures dynamically, visualizing some relations between issues. So let's remove these issues we've inserted manually. And let's visualize the scenario, which is probably #1 use case for all our customers. So what happens if you have a really large project? You have a number of agile teams, they all work in their agile boards, but you want some higher level tasks that you want to, like if you want to plan on higher level, usually people would introduce initiative level or themes, they can call it different names. Actually, our customers have been doing something like that for a long time. Now there are many methodologies that try to help you do it right. Scaled Agile framework is #1 probably right now that helps you manage agile teams in an enterprise setting. Like plan on a high level, make sure all the teams are aligned and work together towards the same goal. There are all kinds of techniques and best practices around that approach. And actually, we see a lot of people doing safe and Jira using our tool. And the example I'm showing is somehow close to that. It's not the exact representation. And again, different companies do it differently. It's not like a dogma. You can change things. If your process works differently, if your teams are structured differently, you just take the best practices from multiple methodologies, combine them the way you want. And actually, that's one of the, I would say, one of the most important characteristics of structure. It's very flexible. So it's not built, it's not geared towards one particular way of doing things. It doesn't matter how you do things in the company, you can think of the way to use structure to help you manage it. So in this particular case, just let me give a brief overview of how the data is structured. So we have our initiatives on the top level. They represent some large pieces of work that we might be planning for longer periods of time, several months maybe. And each initiative, they all exist on a Kanban board, for example. And each initiative is broken down into the epics, as you see here. And they are just connected using a Jira link. This is standard Jira mechanism. We just created the link called is implemented by. So we are saying this initiative 4 is implemented by these 2 epics. So the epics, and this is the level where like portfolio managers, or again, the user roles can be named differently, but some high level people work, maybe business people. Then there is the program level, where the epics exist and they are prioritized by the program manager, or again, depending on the way your organization works, by someone who's working on this level. And then all the epics are broken down into stories. And in this example, we have a couple of teams who share the same epics, but they have their own individual stories. You can think of maybe an Android team and iOS team working together to create some new features in the product, and they both need to work on the same epic, but do their own part. And we have a couple of agile boards here with a number of epics, again, which are shared, and the number of stories. And the tricky part in Jira itself is to track work of these 2 teams together and understanding, for example, how they contribute to some epic and how multiple epics contribute to completion of an initiative. It's really, really hard to get that information easily and get a meaningful report. What Structure does, it allows you to visualize this data in multiple forms, and you can do it really easily. So let me demonstrate how that works. And we actually will build a couple of structures so we can see some main principles behind this automation feature. So basically, it allows you to define a number of rules based on which the structure will be created. We call these rules generators because they produce some content. There are several types of them. So you can insert some issues into your structure based on the JQuery query, for example, and let's actually do that straight away. Or you can insert issues from some agile board, but query is the most flexible option here. So we want to see on our top level the initiatives which exist in this portfolio project. So just try this query. And you can see once we've added the rule, the structure got populated with the list of initiatives. And
let me jump in real quick. So what Eugene did, if you don't know that, JQL is a like SQL, a Jira-based language that you can easily use to get a subset of all Jira issues easily. If you don't feel familiar with that, that's totally fine at this point, because if your Jira passes those 1,000 issues, you will have people who will be very familiar with JQL. So this is a simple task. I imagine that, especially with people that we talk about safe in Agile Hive, there's a lot of business users and they may not be as familiar with that. They will, in that case, rely on other people to help them with the JQL. But it's a very, as we saw, project is, issue type is, and then there were those 5 issues that populate the structure. Pretty simple, is, at least if you know Jira a little.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, there is an even simpler option instead of using JQL. JQL just is the most flexible way. But you can also, there are some other options. You can, for example, pull in all the issues from some Agile board. So we can just select the Kanban board where we have the initiatives, and we get the same result. And the beauty of it is that it's actually updated automatically based on your Jira data. So if we go to this Kanban board, for example, and create a new initiative, I'm
kind of curious. You had the Confluence page, like you're listening to a Confluence page, which Jira issues on there, and then you'll add them to the structure automatically?
Yeah, we can do that as well. And I'll show that.
That's impressive.
A bit later. So yeah, you can see we've created an initiative somewhere else on the board, but Structure immediately reflected it here. And it will be updating in real time as long as you have it open. Once you close it, nothing is happening in the background. So it produces the results when you want to see it. You can think of it as a kind of a report that is generated on demand.
It's not a performance issue because structures no one wants are updated all the time in the background.
Right, correct. Okay, so the next step in this example, so we have initiatives or themes on the top level. And as I mentioned, we have some epics linked to them by Jira link. And Structure allows you to visualize this kind of relationships really easily. So you just add another type of the rule that will pull in everything that is linked to these initiatives with a certain link type. And this type of generator is called extend. And you see, we can visualize a number of different relations. For example, we integrate with portfolio as well. So if you have a number of plans in portfolio, you can reuse that data and visualize relations, parent-child relation from portfolio in Structure. You can use epic links, and you can use issue links, subtasks. So in this case, and again, pages, we'll take a look at that in a bit. So we just select the type of the link that we use to connect our initiatives to the epics. Parent issue is implemented by. We'll not go here into details, but you can define on which level each generator runs. And in this case, we only wanted to scan the top level. So once we do that, you can see the epics got pulled in. And again, if someone creates a new epic and links it to the initiative, it will appear here right away. Or if I create a new epic from here, Structure will actually automatically link it to the initiative. So everything is kept in sync. Whether you change something in Jira, Structure will reflect that. Or if you change something in Structure, it will use the rules you've defined to make sure that the issue you've created works with along those rules. So we created an epic under initiative. It got linked automatically.
I just realized that I didn't know that you had this automatic population and change rule in Structure. How long do you have that?
Actually, in version 3, it's been one of the biggest things that we've added. So this automation feature was replacing older mechanism synchronizers. If there are some old Structure users here, maybe they remember. But yeah, that's like the core of the new Structure.
So how long do you have that already?
Probably 3 years.
Okay, so
like
I'm really far off. I'm a good interviewer.
Yeah.
All of this seems to be new to me. Awesome.
That's cool. Actually, there are many things, and some of them are a bit more difficult to discover. So again, we usually try to help people when they start and find out more about their use cases and suggest some ideas and best practices. And we are also working on some materials for like self-study. Okay, so the next step is to show the stories under the epics. Again, we just add another type of rule here. Let's do that real quick. Again, let's not focus on the details for now. But you see that we got the stories under epics pulled in, and we also want to see the subtasks. And the last step, so currently it's just pulling in everything ordered. For example, the subtasks come in the same order they ordered under the issue. But if you are using Jira Agile, you are most likely using a rank. So everything, for example, on the Kanban board is ranked accordingly. So the higher an issue is on the board, the higher is the priority. And we want to reflect that in our structure as well. And for that, we use another type of generator called sorter. And we can, as you can see, we can sort by pretty much any Jira field, if it makes sense, sorting by it. And among them is rank as well. So now everything is arranged by rank, just the same order as you have on the Agile board. And if you change rank here, for example, you move a story below another, the Agile board will be updated. And it works both ways. If someone changes the priority of, say, an epic in an Agile board, Structure will reflect that change in real time.
So it's probably safe to say that the integration that you've built with your structures fully integrates with the native features of Jira. So everything I do in the structure will be reflected on the issue view and all other Kanban boards and Scrum boards that I have in my backlog and so on.
That's right. And it's actually, you're always working with real Jira issues. So once we've built our structure, we can think what kind of things we want to do with it. Like I've already shown it, you can actually even create new issues from the structure. So you can quickly, like once you've built this kind of automation skeleton, you define the rules how issues should interact with each other. You can quickly break down, for example, initiative into epics and stories right here. So you don't have to go to the boards.
And they will automatically be linked then with one another because link is the way that the structure is built?
Right. So I create a story, for example, and it's now a part of the epic one because I created it under epic one. So Structure maintains all the relations that you've defined.
Which can be pretty handy if I'm on a high-level planning meeting with a lot of people and create a lot of new ideas and tasks. Structure kind of thinks of what I need to remember.
Yeah, and we actually we thought of even integrating with some tools like mind maps or things like that, where you would create some kind of breakdowns of ideas and things like that. Didn't take off. Maybe we just didn't find the right kind of audience or something. But yeah, it's definitely very convenient, and it's so I've shown you can create new issues, but you can also edit existing ones. So you can do inline editing for, okay, no editing for this field, but let's maybe add some.
Can you go into one issue view so that we can see how this backlinks to the structures? Because this is also a very important feature, in my opinion. You probably have it on your agenda. But
you mean this view?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah. So once you've built your hierarchy, you can visualize it in many different places. So you can show it on the issue page. So if you're looking at the story, you can quickly trace all the way up to the initiative. So the developer who's working on a story can quickly find which initiative this story belongs to. Or if you are looking at the initiative, it's also really handy because our structure here, you will see the part of the structure that's related to this initiative. So you can quickly, again, understand the full scope of work in this initiative. And we also do a cool thing here with the time tracking section. So if you are using time tracking in Jira, you can see that initiative itself doesn't have any time logged or estimated. But if you switch on this checkbox, it will calculate the totals from the hierarchy of time estimated and spent and show you here all this data. So now this gadget is showing you the data for initiative based on all the children of this initiative.
Let me try to put this into perspective a little for customers. The cool thing about that is there's another webinar, it's a couple of years ago, when Jens Schumacher, one of Atlassian's first employees who back then was responsible for Jira software as a whole, and he was showing the integration between Confluence, Jira, Bitbucket, Bamboo, and how it all plays together as an application lifecycle management tool. And they coined a term that I find very revealing and telling, full traceability. So the developer can see what the CEO wanted when he came up with this initiative, because he can look at the Confluence page and all the discussions, and then the CEO, on the other hand, can see which parts of my initiative have already been coded on. Is that like, are there subtasks that I can see? Is that the right like operationalization that I want for my project? And what ALM Structure now does is it helps you to do the whole thing in Jira. Like in Jira, I can see what is the higher level business goal that we think we'll support by doing a fix to this really minor thing that I think is totally useless. And I can go up the structure and find out why business thinks I should be fixing that silly bug. And then I can also question that. Like, this information can lead to heated discussions where people say, "Oh, I checked why you want that, and it's total crap because we have to redo the whole thing either way, so we can skip this bug because it's not going to be there tomorrow." And this is something that is very frustrating. If you're coding software and you know it's going to be a waste of my time, and you still have to do it because someone put it on your to-do list, and now you like have this transparency to help your business people understand better what is happening like in the real world. And Structure is helping enormously in transcending people from this bird eyes view to the real world, down to earth, taking the broom and actually cleaning the street.
Okay, that's a good way to put it. Actually, following along the same lines. So you have the hierarchy itself, right? But you also want to see some meaningful data. And inside the structure, you can see all kinds of Jira fields. First of all, just Jira fields themselves, and you can edit them if they're editable, like assign issues to people. And it's really easy to do through this UI because you can quickly edit multiple issues. But Structure also offers a number of custom columns, which also help you better understand where you are, track progress. So the first important column is progress column, which can be customized to show your progress based on either time tracking, or if you don't do time tracking and don't do estimates, just maybe the status of the issue, or like just resolution, open versus closed. And that allows you to see how far you are, for example, in an initiative based on all the work inside this initiative. And this is really, really helpful because otherwise it's pretty much impossible to get that information. Another very simple but very useful concept is ability to just show the totals. So you can, for any numeric Jira value, you can show the totals in the column. So we can see, okay, there is 137 story points in this initiative, and all the values are coming from the lower level issues. But we also have an even more flexible and more complicated way to do it, complicated in a good way. We have the formula feature, which allows you to build Excel-like formulas and see in real time the results right inside the hierarchy. So here, for example, we are calculating weighted shortest job first. We've developed our own language for formulas. Again, as I mentioned, it's very similar to Excel. If you are familiar with writing formulas there, you will figure it out real quick. So you can use all your Jira fields in these formulas and do all kinds of calculations using arithmetic functions, do totals, maximums, minimums, averages, use some logical functions. So again, it's pretty feature rich and very
I have
flexible.
a main question on that.
Sure.
This is then only in the structure, right? You won't populate this data in a custom field for me, will you?
Right now, it's only in the structure, but we are working on a feature that will allow you to push structured data into custom fields. Right now,
I'm not convinced that this is at this point a very good idea for customers, because I know how we do that in Agile Hive. So we have like a scripting engine, like Power Scripts, for example, or Script Runner, whatever you choose. There's other alternatives as well. And then telling from like, let's take what is job first, the business value and time criticality and the risk and the story points. We'll calculate that with the script and put the value into a custom field, and then it's on the issue view, and you can also have it in the structure, and that's definitely something that you may want to add, the ability to store that in a custom field. And then one question that I would also have is, isn't that then competing with all those scripting language tools? Is that useful? Do your customers ask for that?
Yeah, actually they do. So there is a way to currently, so we do have API for a lot of things. So you can actually get the values that you get in the formula, and using a script runner, for example,
okay,
that will, it's just not user-friendly enough right now. Like you can just press a button and say, okay, now copy all these calculated values. But yeah, it's possible. So, and for the user, it's a little bit easier to write a formula than to write a Groovy script or set up calculated field. And again, it's not just about formulas. That thing will work.
But that's a long discussion. We have the same, like I could say, like in Power Scripts, all of this is already pre-done for me. It'll be one simple line, and then I have the script. Yeah, your formula is in context. That's definitely a helpful thing, because initially I want those values in this list.
Right. And we have customers who have a combination of both. They do have calculated fields, but they also have this ability to quickly do some extra calculations. And sometimes it's something really basic, like, I don't know, I want to see the discrepancy between the estimate on the epic level and the story. And in a minute, I have the formula. I don't have to go through. And maybe I will just use it for now for this particular report, and I don't want to create a script which will be running in the background of the system. So just options, more options, always good.
Yeah. Let's move on.
Yeah, sure. So this is one view that you can create. We also have a number of cool features that help you to work with it further. For example, well, first of all, you can create multiple views for different purposes, which will have different sets of columns. And on top of that, you can also, just like you have quick filters in Agile boards, you can create similar kind of constructions in Structure. So it can be as simple as just a filter. You can create a number of those and combine them together. But you can also use other types of sort of transformations, as we call them, that are available in Structure. So for example, you can group things by assignee, and you get this kind of view where you see to which person each initiative is assigned, or you can do nested grouping by status as well, by version. So you can apply this temporary transformations to the structure. It's not updating anything. It's not updating the structure itself. For everyone else, it will look the same. So it's like a filter on top of it, but not only filter. You can see it's also possible to group, to extend, do things like that. And
these filters spark a question in me. When you interact with your customers or those people who contact you in support, what are the roles that people who use Structure heavily are?
Good question. Yeah, I would say it's mostly people who are managing several teams and higher. So program managers, portfolio managers. Again, they can have different names in different organizations, but basically anyone who works with a large number of issues. Because if you're just managing one team, it's useful. It's a nice interface with inline editing, and really, like if you have to do, for example, triaging, or you are planning the sprint, it's actually really nice and easy to do in Structure. And I'll show a few ideas in just a second. But it's mostly for people.
So my summary for that would be, if you're a project manager or responsible for multiple projects, or higher, like for people who manage projects and so on, this is for you. Or if you're someone who is responsible for a couple of people, like for example, you have some part of an organization with 10 people, then a structure may be helpful for you. Maybe you have a business unit with 5 teams who all have 7 people, then the structure is incredibly helpful for you. Or if you're like looking at this standard hierarchical org chart thing, the higher you get, the more interesting it will be to have this folder-like hierarchy of work. Basically, it's a representation of your work. If you use Jira the right way, at one point, every task of a certain size will land in Jira. And then you can have your whole work as a company in such a folder-like visualization, which is, in my opinion, incredibly helpful, which also explains why people love your software solution so much.
And to add to that, just to give you a few examples, so we have customers who have 50,000 items in one structure, and the person who manages the entire really big initiative inside the company uses it to just to understand what's going on, because again, there is no other way. There are, I think, 7 levels in the hierarchy, and each person. So the beauty of it is you can build the same kind of. So all the relations are in Jira. So you can come up with some kind of scheme in Jira where you decide, okay, on this level we have this issue type connected to this issue type, this type of link. But then in Structure you can visualize the exact part you want. So just to give you an example, let's we can.
Hold on, Eugene. One question that I got here is, how about performance? You were mentioning those 50,000 issues in one structure. That sounds like incredibly long loading times. Jira isn't the fastest software on earth today. Is Structure going to make it slow down even more?
It really depends on how you implement it. If you implement it poorly, you can have some issues. Again, it depends on how heavily the Jira itself is loaded. It depends on the complexity of the structures you built. It's hard to give one simple answer. I would say right now, we've managed to resolve all the performance issues that people had. And currently there are no outstanding performance issues that I know of. Again,
okay, so
for 50,000, it may take a couple of minutes.
Yeah, so it is an issue. What is the threshold when you'd say, please contact support to let us help you structure it in the right way? Is it like 2,000 issues or 200 or?
I would say if you have more than 10,000, it's a good idea to check in with us just to make sure that you are doing it the right way. I'll tell you an interesting thing we saw.
And this is part of your support, right? I can do that as a paying customer. I can do this,
yeah.
And you'll help me for free.
Yeah, and we'll be happy to provide some consulting and explain some principles. The thing is, most of the issues we saw were related. Like, it was not the limitation of the tool, it was just people using it improperly. So someone would accidentally want to pull in all the issues from Jira, and they had a million issues. We do have...
Let me inject some self-marketing. There are Atlassian partners out there who help you build a solution that will work for you. So if you run into performance in Jira or in Structure, there's definitely consultants, for example, from Seibert Media out there, who will be happy to help you if you want that. And obviously, you can contact the developers as well. Sorry for end of advert.
In fact, we always encourage people to contact solution partners because, again, we do provide support, but we can't spend hours and hours helping you design the whole solution because it's a solution. It's not just a small part of it. And it's important to see things in perspective. And we saw some situations where the solution partner or just anyone who had more experience could have helped and prevented some of the problems.
There's more features that you want to show.
Yeah, sure.
And all these stuff.
Just a real quick, super quick thing I wanted to show. Just how you can get the same kind of issues, but from a different perspective. So you can start by populating, for example, your structure with stories. So let's say, imagine you have dozens of projects, and if you can build the structure top down and then filter just the part that you want to see, but it might be not as good performance-wise, for example, because you have to build a really big structure and then hide some part of it. Sorry, let me remove. So we have a number of stories for a particular project, and imagine we want to do some sprint planning. So we can do that really easily by grouping by sprints. And what that will give us is the distribution of issues by sprints. And you see that you can also show the, for example, remaining estimate. And if you see that remaining estimate in a certain sprint is way too big, you can just drag and drop it into another sprint, and everything gets recalculated in the real time. And you can go deeper, for example, group at another level.
You're competing with Atlassian core features here, right?
No, not really. I mean, it's a different view. It's a different perspective. So speaking of competition, again, we can go deeper into that. I think all the leading products for project management, they have their benefits and their strong features, and they solve similar problems, but really from a different perspective.
Don't get me wrong. I wasn't criticizing that. Right? I think it is definitely helpful to have alternatives in the same platform, because Atlassian has built Jira in a way that they think it'll help the most customers. But we as solution partners always meet people who have very good reasons that they can explain to us why they need this differently. And having a tool like Structure that gives you the freedom to do things differently, to have the same view and be able to easily adapt the way you want it, is definitely an upside and not a downside.
Yeah, and actually we have people who use all the tools together. They use Portfolio, and they use Structure, and they use Big Picture, depending on the teams, depending on the roles. For some people, it's more convenient to use one thing.
Just to jump directly to the competition thing, you don't think that if someone has Big Picture, he doesn't need Structure, or if he has Jira Portfolio, he doesn't need Structure, right?
It really depends. Actually, for Portfolio, we found a number of interesting ways to work together. So I can't remember what is the current limitation of number of issues in a one portfolio plan. It used to be 5,000 at some point, and like the customer I was mentioning, they had to work with 50,000. So one of the smart ideas we came up with, they can build their smaller portfolio plans, use portfolio planning capabilities there, get the results, then build a structure that visualizes all those plans together in a bigger hierarchy, and do all the calculations and everything else using portfolio data, but in Structure. So kind of combine those plans together into one and roll it up to the higher level. So that's just one example. With Big Picture, we've seen less real integrations. It's more like some people use one, some people use the other, depending on what they prefer. Again, we are sort of solving similar challenges, managing large projects. I would say, and this is my feeling, so Big Picture is more, is designed with some kind of more defined methodology in mind. So they support SAFe, they have some SAFe specific features, terms and everything. So if you're doing SAFe by the book, they might be a perfect fit. In our case, we didn't build it just for SAFe or any other methodology, we just give you a lot of flexibility, so you can try to accommodate it to your specific solution, to your specific process. And again, we always encourage everyone to try both and see, or in portfolio as well, see what works, what doesn't, because we see a lot of customers who are buying a solution and then they are not able to use it because they bought it based on the feature listed on the website, but then it turns out that they can't really apply it in their real scenario. So doing a pilot, in our experience, is really essential. And again,
Eugene,
we always, yep.
Let me interrupt you. I have to end this in 9 minutes, and there's still a lot of features missing that I want you to show. So let's focus on showing more features, please.
Let's jump to the big next big thing we have, and it's an extension, probably the most important for us right now. It's an extension for Structure.Gantt. By the way, it's a disclaimer. It's currently free. But we plan to put some pricing on it with the release of version 2, which probably is going to happen closer to the summer. But if you try it now and if you like it and you start using it, you can get a 2-year free license. I mean, the license will be free perpetually because it's a server license, but you get 2 years of free renewals. So we have access to all these new versions. So what the Gantt is, it's a Gantt chart. It uses structure for the work breakdown structure, as you can see here. So again, you can build your visualization of your project, and then you can show it on the timeline. And we've tried to build Gantt also as flexible as structure itself is. So you can define how the Gantt chart is built. We don't hard code anything. So you can go and define which fields you want to use for scheduling. If you want to use time tracking or story points. If you want to use specific Jira fields for start and finish dates. Again, we don't create any custom fields ourselves because, again, that's what we saw. You try a few tools and you have 3 start dates. It's pretty confusing. So we allow user to choose the date, the field they need. You can use Jira links to visualize dependencies. And we also have some concept of resources. So right now you can select an attribute that you want to use as a resource, and I'll show that in a second. Plus, we recently introduced a really cool feature that allows you to set up different settings for different parts of the Gantt chart. And we think it's really important because sometimes you're planning for multiple teams, and we've seen situations where different teams do things slightly differently. So your one agile team is using story points, and the other team is using time tracking. So, and you still want to plan for them together, and having this slices feature allows you to do that. So once you've defined your configuration, the Gantt chart will visualize your work on a timeline. You can interact with the Gantt chart. You can drag and drop things, and that will, again, update your Jira data. So, for example, if it's a manually scheduled task, it has a start date defined. If I move it, I'm actually changing the Jira field it uses. Or if I change the size of the bar, I'm actually changing the estimate.
That's impressive.
Maybe so it's again, it's a reflection of your Jira data. Or if I
now Jira Microsoft project totally built into Jira with live synchronization of reality.
Sort of. It's not like a full replacement for Microsoft project, but we gradually keep adding new features. There is currently no automatic scheduling or things like that. We do, though, have the ability. Oops.
So this is a competition to other Gantt chart apps for Jira right now, right?
That you can say.
There's some remaining doubt that I have that Gantt charts, as a tool itself, convey to people that they can plan the future, which is impossible. in my opinion at least. But I do see a lot of our customers relying heavily on Gantt charts, and giving them a tool to do that much better than they can do today has value. Yeah.
Actually, a real quick idea about the Gantt charts. I think planning, like truly planning every step, was not the main use case we heard from our customers, and it's been the top voted feature for Structure. What people want to do, they want to do some high-level planning, so they would plan initiatives in the Gantt chart, and they want to see everything underneath them being shown in the real time as it's being developed. So actually, a feature that's coming soon is an ability to visualize your stories and epics based on your agile data. So you can use your sprint dates to visualize a story. So if a story belongs to a certain sprint, it will automatically be shown in that sprint on the timeline. And then you can compare, for example, how well you're doing, if you're making the initiative as quick as you expected, if your stories are accomplished on time to make to the deadline. So it's more like a tracking tool, and the tool just that helps you visualize your data than someone who just, there are teams that do like proper planning. For example, IT teams rolling out infrastructure, like in game dev. The company is releasing a new game, they need to prepare everything, so they would actually have to plan each step, and they can't be agile with that. Okay. So different use cases.
More
yeah.
Skip
pages.
Gantt.
Right, pages. Let's really quickly show that. So this allows you to, it's another extension which allows you to, I hope it works. I haven't tested it. Yeah, it allows you, oh, license expiry, brilliant. To visualize Confluence pages inside Structure. And you can actually edit Confluence page right here. So imagine you have a number of requirements in Confluence, you have a number of issues that implement these requirements, you can visualize it all together, and again, you can sort of track progress on the requirement level based on all the tasks that's implemented. And it all also works dynamically, so if you create a new issue linked to a page, it will be pulled into the Structure automatically.
How does the linking between the Confluence page and the hierarchy works? So if I click on a certain area of the hierarchy, I can define a Confluence page that will be displayed then?
So it works, it uses the standard Jira Confluence integration. So if you have, let's see, let's do that.
Okay, I think this answers the question for me already.
Yeah, like we've added this rule. So this page has 2 Jira tickets linked to it. So Structure automatically shows them here. And if I create a new one from here, let's do that real quick.
And if I have 2 Confluence pages linking to one issue, which page will be shown?
Both.
Ah, okay. How does that look like?
Actually, Structure allows you to have the same issue as many times, the same element as many times in your.
And then you'll have tabs for the multiple Confluence pages?
Ah, wait. The question is, what if there is one issue and multiple pages linked to it?
Exactly.
So if you are building it from the pages perspective, your issue will appear under both of them. Like under strategy 1 and strategy 2, you will have the same. I can actually do it like this. I can copy. Wait. Wait, it's not working. Just a second.
Yeah, okay. For that view, I understand that.
But you can do the reverse. So you can have issues and then pull in all the pages linked to the issues. So it works in both directions.
Okay. And multiple pages will then be tabs, or how will they be shown?
No, just as multiple elements under each issue, like page 1, page 2, page 3.
Ah, okay, yeah, understood.
So just like that.
And let me try to help customers to visualize the use case of that. So you have your knowledge in Confluence, and you have your work, your tasks in Jira, and you want to intertwine them better. The problem today is, or the problem, it's actually a big strength of Atlassian, that they that you can put this Jira link on a Confluence page, and then it will live there. It will automatically update. If you change the workflow and it has a different status, it will be reflected on the Confluence page. On the Jira issue, you'll automatically get a backlink to the Confluence page. If the Confluence page updates, for example, a new title, it'll be reflected on the Jira issue. And Structure Pages now allows you to enhance this way of intertwining Confluence and Jira in a much better way, to have a representation of a Confluence page in this hierarchy of a structure, just as other issues, which is incredibly helpful if you want, for example, a group be beneath of a concept and you want people to understand the concept without leaving Jira. They can click it, they can read the concept, and then they can move on in the structure. Is that a good way to say it?
Yeah, that's exactly, like, you can have the whole context inside your Jira. So again, if someone is working on a subtask, you can trace all the way up, and you may have a Confluence page there describing why this is being done. So it makes it much easier to discover your documentation and have it like at hand. It's easier to find it, because for example, the description may not be linked to the subtask directly, but to an epic maybe. So it just makes life easier.
Eugene, I'm 2 minutes over my my limit. You can have 30 seconds more to show a last feature.
I think we've covered all the core features. Well, maybe a really important one. Let's see if we have some cool stuff in there. You can put everything on dashboards as well, which we believe is really important, including Gantt charts and structures. So you can access structures from anywhere, and you can insert this gadgets into a Confluence page. So if you have a Confluence page with some project report status, you can have these elements there. Structure is actually dynamic, so you can even change things right there inside the gadget. Gantt is just a visualization, the picture, but it's going to be updated once you reload the page. So again, you have all your essential info there.
Okay, I'm incredibly sorry for making this happen.
No worries.
Maybe you could end sharing your screen and we can see you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Session. This has been very interesting, at least for me. I learned a lot. I hope that as a viewer, it has been interesting for you as well, and you learned something for yourself. If you're interested in learning more, you can download Structure Pages, Gantt from the Atlassian marketplace, like thousands of people have done. You're absolutely welcome to buy this, for example, through Seibert Media or directly through the marketplace. Contact us or Eugene and his team about that, and shoot questions below as comments. And Eugene, I know you probably skipped 60% of the things that we could be talking about. It's at least an hour of ALM technology that I think was very fast-paced and helpful. Thank you very much for preparing that, for showing all this to us, making it not a silly sales pitch of things that no one cares about. This is incredibly helpful. The bigger companies' adoption to Jira gets. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for inviting us. It's always a pleasure. And yeah, everyone is welcome to send us any follow-up questions. If anyone is coming to the summit, we'll be happy to meet you there. We'll be present, and you'll be able to get all the all the details out of us, and we can do some free consulting for you right there on the booth.
I have written down in my personal ideas and tasks that I want to do is like play around with automatic creation of structures. This is incredibly interesting to what I've done. I've fiddled a little bit with manual structure creation and found that pretty interesting already. I think having some thoughts about how can I create a structure that will help me personally to manage parts of my responsibilities that will automatically update is going to be a completely different game, and I really feel pity that I have missed that for 3 years, although I could have used that for a very long time ago. So shame on you for not making that discovery as good, and shame on me for not diving deep and contacting you for more information. I hope that the people viewing that will not make these mistakes and reach out early. It's free, it's non-binding. I love the way Eugene and Igor run this their team and company. So please contact them and talk to them, and also contact our consultants. They are always embarrassed if I'm doing these webinars with people like you, and they say you can't say you don't know, because we are paid to tell people how this works, and it's so embarrassing if people then see that you have no clue of what we're doing out there.
I can attest that some people in Seibert Media know our tool really well. So just don't hire Martin to help you directly.
Yeah,
ask for someone else.
That's a very good thing, and I always try to tell them that my ignorance is helping me bringing those webinars to a level that entry viewers can easily understand. And I admit some of the things may be shallow and could be more deep. Thanks for taking us so deep into your product today. That's been very insightful. Thanks.
It was my pleasure. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.